Welcome back to Shadow Wars. There are programs so brutal, so buried in classified ink, that even the people who ran them deny they existed. Project Phoenix was one of them. It wasn't a military campaign. It wasn't about winning hearts and minds. It was about one thing: eliminating anyone connected to the Viet Cong, by any means necessary. And that included teachers, clerks, village leaders, anyone suspected, not proven, of working with the insurgency. The Phoenix program was launched in 1967, as the war in Vietnam spiraled into chaos. The US military couldn't defeat the Viet Cong through traditional warfare. So the CIA proposed something darker. Target the infrastructure, the people behind the fighters, the shadows that moved, supplies, relayed messages, recruited new soldiers. But the jungle doesn't give up its secrets, so the CIA created province interrogation centers and provincial reconnaissance units. And with the help of South Vietnamese intelligence and US Special Forces, they began building lists, names, faces, targets. Villages were raided at night, people disappeared. Bodies were found days later, or never. Suspects were neutralized, a term the CIA used to mean captured, killed, or turned into informants. But let's be honest, most didn't live long enough to talk. And how were these people identified? Often by word of mouth, a tip from a rival family, a neighbor with a grudge, or a low-level informant trying to curry favor. Once your name landed on the Phoenix list, there was no trial, no court, just men with guns knocking on your door. And the results? By 1972, US reports claimed over 20,000 Viet Cong infrastructure members had been neutralized. But even Pentagon analysts admitted, we have no way to confirm how many of these were actual VC, or just convenient bodies. One American official called it an assassination program, pure and simple. Another described it as a war crime disguised as counterinsurgency, but the CIA defended it. They said Phoenix was a success. They said it broke the Viet Cong's command structure. What they didn't say was how many innocent people died, how many survivors were permanently scarred, and how many South Vietnamese citizens began to fear American soldiers more than the enemy. Because once you build a system that kills based on suspicion, you don't control the fear, you spread it. In the next chapter, we'll step inside the interrogation centers, where torture was routine, truth was optional, and quotas mattered more than justice. Stay with me. Because this isn't just a story about the past. It's a blueprint for what came next. If you want to understand how the Phoenix program really worked, you have to walk into the places the cameras never reached. They weren't bases. They weren't prisons. They were interrogation compounds, often unmarked, surrounded by barbed wire, hidden behind schools or market stalls. Inside, they called it questioning. But the truth was torture. Raw, relentless, and methodical. Suspects were brought in hooded and tied. Sometimes dragged from their homes at 2 a.m., other times handed over by informants, looking for cash or revenge. Once inside, there were no rules. Beatings, electrocution, mock executions, waterboarding, long before it had a name. Interrogators didn't need proof. They needed names. Because Phoenix wasn't just about breaking people. It was about building the next kill list. Every prisoner was a potential informant. If they named 10 others, their lives might be spared. If they didn't, they were marked for neutralization. But here's what made Phoenix uniquely terrifying. It ran on quotas. Each province, each district, each US-backed intelligence team had monthly targets. Numbers to hit, charts to fill, a bureaucratic engine of death. Some units faked data. Others used torture to force confessions. And when in doubt, They simply killed suspects and labeled them Viet Cong. No evidence required. One former CIA operative described it plainly. We weren't looking for justice. We were looking for results. And the results came fast. From 1968 to 1971, over 80,000 people were detained. At least 26,000 were assassinated. Many shot in alleys, on roadsides, or simply disappeared. But ask survivors, and the numbers don't tell the story. They'll tell you about families torn apart. Fathers taken and never seen again. Mothers accused because a neighbor wanted their land. Teenagers tortured because their uncle once fed a Viet Cong fighter. The program blurred every line between intelligence and revenge, strategy and terror, America and its enemy. Even U.S. military officers grew uneasy. Some refused to participate. One Army officer wrote in his journal, "I joined to fight communists, not to kill civilians in the dark." But the machine rolled on, and when Congress asked questions, the CIA used soft language. Infrastructure, neutralization, detainment efficiency, village pacification. But on the ground, people weren't pacified. They were terrified. The Viet Cong didn't need to lie. They pointed to Phoenix and said, "This is what the Americans bring." And for many villagers, that was enough to turn against the very forces claiming to protect them. In the final chapter, we'll uncover how Phoenix never really died. It just changed names and became the model for assassination programs across the globe. Because once you create a system that rewards killing over truth, it doesn't vanish. It mutates. By the time the Phoenix program officially ended in 1972, it had claimed over 26,000 lives, many of them never proven Viet Cong. Never convicted, never identified beyond a name on a list. There was no public trial, no reckoning, just a quiet termination order and a few redacted pages in a dusty Pentagon archive. But what Phoenix left behind never went away. Inside Langley, the CIA saw the numbers and called it effective. In official memos, they described the program as a highly valuable counterinsurgency tool. In reality, it had done something far more dangerous. It had created a blueprint for targeted killings, for data-driven assassinations, for erasing enemies in the name of security, a blueprint that would reappear again, and again, and again. After Vietnam, Phoenix disappeared from public conversation, but not from intelligence doctrine. Fast forward to the War on Terror. Kill lists resurfaced under new names, high-value target programs, Joint Prioritized Effects List. Torture chambers were rebranded as black sites. Interrogations without oversight became enhanced techniques. And the jungle rifle was replaced by the drone strike. In Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, the method changed, but the mission stayed the same. Identify, isolate, eliminate, quietly, without question. In 2011, when a U.S. drone strike killed Anwar an American citizen, without trial, the legal justification cited executive authority over imminent threats. But the real precedent, it started with Phoenix. Because Phoenix proved that once you build a kill list machine, once you normalize assassinations as a bureaucratic function, you never stop using it. You just find new enemies to feed it. And what about the people Phoenix was supposed to protect? In post-war Vietnam, many survivors of the program never received justice. Entire families wiped out based on faulty intel. Villages torn apart by American-trained death squads. Some were labeled collateral damage. Others didn't even get a name. And still, the myth persists. Phoenix was necessary. Phoenix saved lives. Phoenix helped win. But there's a brutal irony in that belief. Because America didn't win in Vietnam, it lost. And not just the war. It lost its moral authority, piece by piece. execution by execution. Thank you for watching Shadow Wars. If this story unsettled you, it should. Because Phoenix wasn't just a moment in history. It was a doorway. And once that door opened, we never truly closed it. Subscribe for more stories that were never meant to be told. Because the next time a name appears on a list, it might not come with a warning.